And we're back. Joe,
We're back from where? Where did we go?
Holidays, some of us, it looks like.
Were you on holidays? How, me? No,
Yeah.
I wasn't on holidays, no. This is, this is for, it's the medical, it's a medical condition. No, I mean, it's for, yeah. I took some medicine and I'm feeling a little hoarse. If you know what I mean. That's as much as I can say, I'm sorry. I'm feeling a little hoarse. So, there you go.
You can see all right.
I see you're over there, yeah. I see you.
See the screen.
See the screen, yeah.
And Scotty. Okay.
And see Scotty, yeah. It's good though. It's all good. Well, it's, it's summertime almost, isn't it? Soon.
It's deep winter, Joe.
Ah, come on.
That's why I wonder where you've been.
Look on the bright side.
Well, you just, do whatever it takes. If you
Whatever
need
it
to-
takes, Neil, whatever it takes.
So yeah, you were asking, I've titled this show Raindrops Before the Storm.
Raindrops keep falling on our head.
I know, dramatic. But last week was kind of crazy in the sense of how many countries in the Middle East carried out airstrikes against each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting hard to track them all. I'm not even sure I have them all. I just have from Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, I've forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think of something earlier, tell me. This is when the breaking news, the way it developed was Pakistan had condemned Iran for drone strikes against targets inside its borders in the region of Balochistan. What's interesting is the Iranian media initially reported it too, but then retracted it. Mm-hmm. But then Pakistan upped the ante and confirmed it. Since then, it's a storm in a teacup in a sense. It's come and gone already. They each retracted their ambassadors. Okay, you come home. I take you home. We go to war, kind of like that. But within 48 hours, the ambassadors are back in their respective embassies.
Yep.
So it's a nothing burger in itself. But there's so, like I said, there's so much of it going on.
Well, it was, that incident I think was a win for Iran in a certain sense. Iran gets to fire missiles, at a, as far as they're concerned, a legitimate terrorist target. Which, I mean, it has to be. You have to see it in the context of the bombing in Iran there a couple of weeks ago. You know what I mean? Of course, they fired missiles into.
Did the Iranians state that that's why they did it?
Terrorists, to stop a terrorist attack, or
this
to
was
target terrorists who were planning to target Iran.
Did they specifically connect it with the bombing at in the south of Iran at the Soleimani?
No. The missiles they fired into Syria near Idlib,
right,
were directly connected to. They said were directly connected to, were a direct response to the bombing at the Soleimani
Cemetery
memorial. And in that it was allegedly a Mossad or an Israeli base inside Syria, from whence the Iranians claim, the Mossad, the Israelis are, plotting and planning and carrying out, attacks inside Iran. So that was directly related to the bombing at the Soleimani memorial. But then
separately,
before that, I think it was before. Like I said, it's hard to keep track of the exact days, but I think the day before. Basically around the same days, basically. This past week, they fired missiles into Pakistan, into just on the border with Pakistan and Iran.
Okay.
And then allegedly a terrorist site. There's a group in there called Jaish al something or other. Anyway, they've been around for quite a long time, but as we know, the whole history of Pakistan and the CIA and Pakistani intelligence, ISI, and the Mujahideen in late 70s in Afghanistan, in the 80s, being financed, funded, armed, trained by the Americans and probably the Israelis against the Soviets. It's all tied up with that stuff. That's the genesis of the history of the kind of Islamic terrorism. It goes back to then, more or less.
There's a whole train wreck of terrorist attacks in Iran in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, mosque bombings, really like full-on sick stuff, suicide bombings, suicide in quotes. Who knows if they're more sophisticated than that? But they are attributed to, in the official, you know, Western accepted narrative, to this Jaish al. I've heard different names for it. I think it translates roughly to BLA, Balochistan Liberation Army. And if you look at this on a map, we don't have time to do all these in detail, but Balochistan is telling, because it's kind of reminds me of Kurdistan. If Kurdistan were a country, it would form a chunk of Turkey and Syria and Iraq and Iran. And it's bizarre because it's been such a hotbed of separatism, terrorism, and outright wars for the entire time that the Middle East has been divided this way, that when you look at all the borders of those countries meeting, smack in the center point of that place, you got to wonder, was that deliberate back in the day? Anyway, Balochistan is similar. Like half of it's in Iran, half of it's in Pakistan. Maybe a chunk is also in Afghanistan. So it's going to be a perennial sore spot. Anyway, that isn't the real issue. This isn't Iran dealing with the long-term problem. This is Iran sending messages to those who would use regional separatists on either side of their borders through which to attack them.
Yeah, which they have been doing for quite a while. But it's like, yeah, I mean, the fact that the Iranians felt kind of confident to do that, and could carry it out, and not with no regard, let's say, for Pakistani, quote unquote, Pakistani sovereignty, and know that the Pakistanis were going to turn around and say, "How dare you? This is an infringement of our sovereignty. We're going to respond. We're going to shoot some." I mean,
they did respond.
Of course, they fired some missiles into Iran, into the border. Like, so you're just talking about a very small, a small area.
They claim they fired back at terrorist pockets on the other side of the border.
Of course, they fired Iran. Yeah.
And then, if that's the case, then both agree that's what they are, tacitly. Like, within a day or two, the Iranian foreign minister is in Switzerland at the Davos World Economic Forum, having a conversation with his counterpart in Pakistan. And then the next day, it's all sorted. The ambassadors are going back. Anyway, but that was only one incident of three that seemed to be simultaneous. There's the Pakistan airstrike, the one you've mentioned in Idlib, northeastern Syria. That's Pakistan obviously flexing muscles. They even made a point of Iran, sorry.
Yeah.
They made a point of firing and declaring, and it's been acknowledged, I think, by the Pentagon, that the missiles they used for that strike, which is, think about it, it's the furthest point from Iran, because it's like right up there under Turkey, so the northwest of Syria. They were fired from southern Iran. And someone did an idea, like calculated the distance, and that would put these things well within a radius reach of Israel, which may have been a message here. That's the second one. The third one from Iran, Syria. No, it did Syria. Hang on. Oh, Iraq. They hit something in Iraq as well.
American base, yeah.
But that wasn't them.
That was Iraqi resistance, yeah.
That was Iraqi resistance the next 2 days later on the 20th. I've forgotten now. They did a third thing. Maybe they did hit something else in Iraq, the Iranians proper. Anyway, that's why it's confusing, because technically the American base, Ain al-Assad base, this is the one that Iran for sure, its actual military hit years ago in revenge for Soleimani's assassination, right? That's been hit again this week. But technically that came from inside Iraq. So that's not Iran's. Technically it's Iraqi, in quotes. But it's the Iraqi PMU, which was set up by Soleimani. And it's kind of quasi-official state Iraqi, but everyone knows it's Iranian. Anyway, that happened. That's actually skipping a few things, because in between the Iranian airstrikes and that incident at the US airbase in northern Iraq, Israel droned, well, that's been happening before. Israel droned something in southern Lebanon, a car, and killed 2 more Hamas members. Here's another one.
They also hit in Iraq. That's the... Sorry, no. Outside Jesus, it is hard to keep track of it. They killed 4 members of the IRGC just yesterday.
That's the biggest kind of counter from the other side in this conflict. Damascus. That was yesterday, 20th? Yes, yesterday.
That was Damascus yesterday. They killed 4 Iranian Republican Guard.
I think it's 5 now.
5,
The 5th
okay.
one has died.
But that was in response to, the Israelis said that was in response to the Iranian attack on Idlib, which hit a Mossad base, which killed 8 Mossad. According to the Iranians, it killed 8 Mossad members.
Did the Israelis, few of them ever give the proper reason for it.
Well,
They
the
say
Israelis
it's
never do.
terrorists. Did they give that reason?
The Iranians, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
The Iranians said it was a Mossad base in Idlib.
Yes.
But the Israelis didn't say this.
The Iranians don't say anything, ever.
Ever, right. That's usually how these things go. It's just like news.
So you basically had 2 weeks ago the bombing at the graveyard of Soleimani, the ceremony for the commemoration of the death of Soleimani, carried out by Mossad. Then, okay, there's obviously been missiles flying left, right, and centre since then. But the one in near Idlib this week was by Iran, was in revenge for the bombing at Soleimani's commemoration ceremony, which basically and killed 8 Mossad members. So that was in response for Mossad attacking, blowing up, killing Iranians at Soleimani's ceremony, and then Israelis respond by heading outside Damascus, Iranian base or centre or whatever, and killing, like you said, 4 or 5.
It wasn't the base. What they hit in Damascus was residential houses in a diplomatic
Safe
area.
house, yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Called, base. Whatever.
Okay, right.
You know,
A hideout or something.
base,
Safe house.
hideout. Places where your enemies are. Your enemy is.
Well,
Some kind of structure, you know.
If he's hiding in a diplomatic building, maybe
Iranians
they don't care.
The Israelis don't give much credence to diplomacy, as you may have noticed. The whole world may have noticed.
Iran now has vowed revenge for those 5 IRGC people.
And then they'll
killed.
do something, and then the Israelis will vow revenge. The
They-
Israelis generally
they-
don't vow revenge because, like, the Israelis are like the Americans. I don't know how you want to characterize it, but to me, it's kind of cowardly, you know. Where the Israelis and the Americans will attack their enemies, whoever they are, you know, a group of people that they want to take out, and then will gloat about it and tell everybody about it. We took out these people that say exactly who they are. When that country responds and, you know, kills either Israelis or Americans, there's like zip. Don't say a word. You know, Americans, Israelis don't say a word because they don't. They're too chicken shit to admit. Like the Iranians, you know, don't shy away from recognizing that their people were killed by the Israelis, and they'll say the Israelis did this. They killed our people.
They
We're going to
killed
take them.
5 of our guys. Here are photos of them.
Yeah.
They're all martyred, and we vow revenge for it.
Yeah, and then whenever they take revenge, the Israelis and the Americans and the Western media say nothing. Or they'll report on it, whatever, but. Unless the Israelis officially admit it or the Americans officially admit it, like this,
It's a shit deal. If you die for Israeli Mossad, like
you don't get your
you
name in
just
the papers.
you're put in a shallow grave and no one remembers you.
You're nobody, yeah. But that's because we're not meant to be, because we're so powerful. Israelis and the Americans are so powerful. Nobody can ever attack and kill us, right? They can't shoot our ships down. They can't shoot or sink our planes. They can't kill
The
our
attack
people.
on the airbase has injured American troops again.
I know.
And it's concussion again.
No, it's only
And
concussion.
it's a number of people.
It's only concussion. It's only traumatic brain injury.
Traumatic brain injury.
Because the Iranians or the Iraqi militia keep firing at that airbase, or that American base in Iraq. And like you said, it's the same base that the Iranians fired at after Trump killed Soleimani.
This week, 4 years ago.
Yeah. So there's like
Echoing.
there's there's a timing thing going on there. But so they fired at the same base that they fired at 4 years ago, and on both occasions they at least admitted that missiles hit. Most of them were shot down, same as Ukraine. You know, Ukraine shoots down like 30 out of 20 missiles. You know, but they shoot most of them down. Some cause some damage, and some personnel were being assessed for traumatic brain injury. Now, it's a special kind of Iraqi militia ballistic missile, that only causes traumatic brain injuries.
The sound of it hurts their ears?
Yeah, scared. We have some scared troops that we're taking to hospital. We're flying a bunch of scared American troops out of Iraq and to Ramstein airbase in Germany in order to assess them for the level of scarediness that they are suffering from as a result of ballistic missiles hitting their base. But everything else is fine other than that, so it's fine. So.
On a scale of frightened to shat his pants?
Yes. We'll report on that later. There'll be an update on that later.
Isn't it likely some of them were Lloyd Austin?
Who?
American troops. In that
Lloyd
base.
Austin.
Well, this isn't a one-off. Jesus, if you've actually bothered to read the AP reports on this, down at the end, they do the summary wrap on the situation, and they say this is about the 100th time that Iraqi forces
58 or something like that, yeah.
have fired at American forces in Syria and Iraq just since October 7th.
Mm.
And it's always just, concussion. Missed, we shot it down.
Missed, shot it down. Sore head. Missed, shot it down, sore head.
They did once admit 2 deaths, I think, in the last few months.
Mm. I haven't seen, certainly if they did, I haven't seen anything of note. Like, I mean, it hasn't stuck out, like, basically, you know what I mean? There's nobody, if it was reported properly, if there were people who have been killed and it was reported properly, but like, so we know. Like, we were talking last week about Lloyd Austin. It's, you know, if they've gone to, and we've talked about other events relating to Ukraine, you know, where US personnel, high level, you know, important people in the US military and even in the government who have been killed because they were loitered too long under a loitering munition maybe, or just loitered too long in Ukraine and ended up getting taken out by a Russian missile, and then they end up, you know, dying peacefully in their sleep back at home, or falling out of the airplane.
Falling out of airplanes.
Or crashing an airplane.
Crashing in a helicopter in Mexico.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Or falling off a mountain while hiking alone.
Yeah, the French guy. French general. So, yeah, you're not going to, when you see them going to that length to cover up this kind of stuff, that's
For
right
VIPs,
down the chain. They're not going to
report GIs.
They're not going to report anybody either, you know what I mean? And it's just a policy of it didn't happen, you know, and the media then follow suit, right?
Amazing. Well, this is the thing. How long, like, to what scale will they keep this up? You know?
Yeah.
Dozens.
I think
Hundreds.
that's why I think that's why they say they don't want, they keep on saying we're not at war with the Houthis, and we don't want a wider conflict in the Middle East, because they realize that the situation has changed to the extent that, in terms of the ability for groups within the Middle East who are not, you know, who are anti-American, which is a terrible thing to be, by the way, being an anti-American, but these groups are not friendly with America, and America realized that if it was to actually start some kind of a significant war where they provoke those groups to actually go fully to war with them, America would lose so many, you know, different parts of its military apparatus, including personnel, that they wouldn't be able to cover it up. And I wouldn't put it past them. Like, America is deathly afraid of ever being seen to be defeated, or to be, you know, to lose, basically, in a conflict, to have their ass handed to them in a conflict. It's almost like, I think they kind of feel that the entire American edifice and, you know, the American century, the American empire would collapse overnight if the world all of a sudden, you know, got to see that America, or just interpreted it that way, that America got its ass handed to it. Everything would collapse. The American economy would crash. Wall Street would fucking go in the toilet. You know what I mean? Just because of that, just because of sentiment. Because we know markets work on sentiment, right? If the market isn't feeling very well today, if it has a bit of a cold or something, then all your stocks go down. So the market isn't feeling good. The market would feel super bad if there was a report of, like, you know, an aircraft carrier got sunk, or something significant, you know, or Americans in somewhere or other got their ass handed to them. The American stock market would have a really bad day. Do you know? Just because it would feel really bad about that. Like
Boeing stock last week.
Yeah.
35 billion wiped off value of Boeing.
So, like, I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit there, but I think there's enough evidence if you look at the way America has operated right up until today, over the past several decades, that it's very, very sensitive about propaganda, about the information war, and its perception.
It seems to fear it more than death.
Yeah,
literally.
The perception
its
of
troops
America.
can die, but the perception that troops died is more terrifying.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, absolutely. That's what's happening in Ukraine, right? I mean, there's like 600, 700,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed, but as long as no one admits that, then the war can carry on. If you ever admitted that, it would no longer be possible to wage that war, right? It's bizarre. It's like, how about reality creators, But yeah, perception seems to play a bigger and bigger and bigger part in global affairs in general these days, It's all about perception. And I think they know that, They don't admit it, obviously. No one would be stupid enough or crazy enough to think that, well, belief plays a massive part in the way the world works, basically. And if some people, if a large percent of the population of the people on the planet, if a large percentage of them suddenly stopped, changed their belief in a fairly fundamental way, I don't know on what particular topic, but on anything, if they want to keep them, if people in positions of power want to keep people believing certain things or looking in a certain direction and believing certain things, then, yeah, I suppose you could assume that if they stop believing those things, that it will have some very tangible, direct, knock-on real-world effects. I don't know if they believe that, but they're acting as if that's what they believe.
Yeah. The US announced last week that because of previous strikes on US troops in Syria and Iraq, that they were sending 1,500 more troops to bases like Ain al-Assad base in northern Iraq. Well, the government in Baghdad said, no, you're not, last week.
And
so what do you do then?
Go ahead and do it anyway.
Go ahead and do it anyway, or just not issue a follow-up and leave it to be. In the press, it's official, the US has sent them, but they're not there.
Maybe,
right.
But those numbers are obviously bogus as well, The actual number of troops in Iraq is probably a very closely guarded secret, and it's probably a lot more than anybody knows. The same in Syria.
Perception war. Does this count? Yemen's parliament has decided to officially prescribe Israel, the US, and the UK as foreign terrorist entities.
Yeah. Well, you saw where is that? You see that earlier in the week, the US made the Houthis an offer that if they would stop shooting missiles at Israel-bound ships in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, that they would consider removing the Houthis from their terrorist list.
Right. Which they'd only just put them on.
Yeah.
And the Houthis were supposed to go, oh, that's a good offer.
Yeah.
Good offer. Hang on. No.
Yeah. It's like completely abandon your principles and we'll consider changing the word we use to describe you. Oh, let me think about that for a minute. Can I get back to you on it? And then Blinken also said that the Houthis would not be able to get visas to enter America. Take that. I'll teach you. Those holidays you guys are planning? When you kind of take a break from shooting the missiles and you're all planning to come to Miami? Not happening anymore.
Yeah.
How do you feel now?
Yeah.
Still going to shoot those missiles now, are you? No Miami.
It's demented. This is the same Houthis the Americans facilitated blockading. What the Houthis would wish to see happen to Israel now, no ships in or out, has been what happened to them, resulting in the UN estimates 300,000 deaths in Yemen from starvation and malnutrition more generally, and lack of medicine.
Yeah.
American sanctions. So
American sanctions good, everybody else's sanctions bad. Okay? Just remember that, Neil. Speaking about sanctions, do you know that Europe bought Russian oil via India at record rates last year?
I did, yeah.
As in all-time record, more than they've ever bought. So the 2023, right, that's the second year when everybody was really, really annoyed at Russia and sanctions were really hitting hard and biting deep. and Europe had cut itself off completely from Russian oil and gas, right? Not quite. They were buying lots of Rosindia gas, or sorry, Rosindian gas. It's not Russian gas, it's Rosindian gas. Anyway, yeah, so Europe bought
Do you mean it's
more than they have ever bought
So, do you mean it's more than they've ever bought from India or from Russia?
from Russia.
Crazy. So the total.
Of course, because they cut themselves off. They have cut off a lot of the oil, the gas, the direct gas, obviously because America, the CIA blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, so they couldn't get that gas anymore. So they obviously did take a serious hit in the import of Russian gas. So they have to, they can't directly supply oil for gas, but they have to increase their oil in order to make up for some of that shortfall, from Russian gas. So they had to buy, they had to buy oil from everywhere. But of course, it's like the whole thing's a joke.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a joke. The whole sanctions thing is utter nonsense, and it's proven by the fact that it's had no effect whatsoever on the Russian economy. No significant effect. And in fact, the Russian economy is like
Not just on the Russian economy, but on the demand side.
Yeah.
They couldn't even affect the demand side.
No, of course not. What are you going to do? That's like net zero. What are we going to cut everybody off from oil and gas tomorrow or something, or in 10 years we're just going to destroy Western civilization? I mean, it's all nonsense. These people are talking utter nonsense all the time.
It's economics 101. If you bump up the perception of scarcity, it increases. The purchasing, the price, everything increases. It's scarcity that drives, especially energy markets. So did they forget that? That's 101 for oil and gas. You increase the feeling, of instability and scarcity, and you will have people buy more of it. They're not going to go, oh, okay, that's it, no more.
Yeah, talking on that topic, check this out. This was in the Telegraph a couple of days ago. French rubbing their hands, as French are rubbing their dirty little hands, as Britain forced to import 1.5 billion of electricity. Britain imported a record amount of electricity from Europe last year as solar and wind farms struggled to generate sufficient energy in the wake of coal and nuclear power plant closures. So people need to brace themselves for this. At least people who have been paying attention, brace themselves for the fact that all the things that they've been saying, people have been saying, and most people have any sense know, in terms of the Western government's talk of net zero and moving totally to renewables and green energy and stuff. From the get-go, when they started saying that, anybody with any sense said that's bullshit. That's not going to work. You're not going to get enough energy from wind and solar, particularly in Northern European countries, but in European countries in general, because you simply don't have enough sun and don't have enough wind. It's not reliable enough. That's bullshit. So you can't do that. So you better brace yourself for not only stuff like this coming out where it proves that what you thought was obvious, what you knew to be true is obviously true, and then the media admit it, despite the fact that the media before now would have been saying Britain on course to be 100% renewable.
Yeah, by 2030.
Blah, 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 and we're all going to do it, and yay. And then they just throw this out and say, that's not working. And people are like, of course it wasn't going to work. How did you not know it wasn't going to work? It's stupid. It was a stupid idea. Of course it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Not only that, but people better prepare themselves as well for not just the Brits having to buy record amounts of electricity from France, but the Brits and other countries not being able to buy electricity from anybody, and there being rolling blackouts in the UK and other European countries as your government pushes, regardless, towards this ridiculous green energy.
Green energy, net zero. But are they?
Dystopian horseshit.
Stuff like this says that they're not.
They're not what?
Doing that. Or the previous story you mentioned, that Russia, the EU in reality has bought more Russian oil than ever before. Was it oil or gas? You switch between the two. Oil.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
to make up probably for the gas shortfall because of Nord Stream.
Yeah.
But so that's the reality. So the reality is they're buying and consuming more than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Now the rhetoric is going in that direction. We're going towards net zero and green, but the reality is going in that direction. So are we actually approaching a point where there will be blackouts caused by their ideas?
Yeah. They're going to carry on anyway. Obviously the Brits know that they had to buy a record amount of French electricity last year because they didn't get enough from oil, or sorry,
renewable.
solar and.
But as long as they can keep doing that, well, then
But they're going to keep shutting down traditional sources of energy and keep replacing them with more solar and wind farms. And then they're going to keep having to buy more. And eventually it's going to come to a point where there's not enough to go around. You know, I mean, the
Right.
Germans and all of them, they're all building more and more wind farms. They're funneling, pushing massive amounts of taxpayer money into building these renewables, despite the fact that as every year goes by, they have more and more evidence that it's not going to work. And they say, you know what, let's keep going. Let's keep doing it. And then you get into conspiracy theory land where people start going, are they trying to destroy industry, Western industry? Are they trying to actually create a situation where there are rolling blackouts and there are food shortages, etc., etc.? Is that what they're trying to do? Because it certainly looks like it. Because if you embark on a plan, you realize it's not working, and you say, you know what, I'm going to continue this plan that clearly isn't working, and clearly wasn't going to work from the beginning, but I'm going to carry on with it anyway. We'll go, well, why would you do that? Do you want the negative outcome of power outages and food shortages and kind of chaos in general? Is that what you're looking for? Chaos? Because that's the way to do it. That's a conspiracy theory, Neil.
I saw a video recently. It's the Dublin buses are all electric now. It's awesome. Dublin's gone green. But it's a video by someone who's either a driver or something working in the depot, and he shows the buses early in the morning. They're all hooked up to chargers, and the chargers are diesel generators.
Yeah.
So, yeah, green.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Do you think, yeah. So, yeah, maybe this week in the Middle East was just a particularly fiery one, or...
Tit for tat.
It obviously depends on Gaza. Next topic. Day 107 was yesterday. So today's day 108 of the genocide in Gaza. Let's check in on how things are going.
It's genocide, is it, still?
It is, I'm afraid. I mean, they supposedly are doing less of what they were doing, but the videos are... The reports speak otherwise.
Yes, Red Fox. Government loves us. Keep saying that. And said that spelt that way as well.
These are
government.
These are airstrikes from either this morning or yesterday. I'm not sure if it's how recent, but it's the last couple of days. You hear gunfire, but they're being reported as airstrikes as opposed to the demolitions. People have seen videos of whole districts being blown up by rigged explosives. That's different. These are dropped in the air. It's crazy. I mean, the TikTok nonsense is still going on. I don't even want to show that. It's just, I don't know. It obviously speaks to the psychology of Israelis that they can do that in the middle of all this stuff. You mentioned a couple of months ago that this will probably head towards mass disease, and thereby Israel will get what it's seeking for, which is Palestinians gone.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a report from Al Jazeera English on diseases spreading.
Mm-hmm. Hepatitis A.
ظهر عليها اصفرار في وجهها، يعني خطار شديد في عينيها وفي وجهها، فجيت فيها اراجع حان بحيث اني اعالجها. التهاب كبد وبائي درجه، يعني التلوث اللي احنا بنعيشه والازدحام هذا الشديد اللي احنا فيه وانتشار الزباله في الطرقات اكيد ادى لانتشار هذا الوباء. انا حسب ما بعرف يعني انه المرض خطير جدا.
في انتشار هذا الامراض كما اسلفت هو الارتباط باهمال في النظافه، ليس هو اهمال ولكن الظروف حكمت انه ما يكون في نظافه بنسبه 100%، المياه اللي بيشربوها غير صالحه تماما للشرب، شبكات الصرف الصحي كلها غيرها تعمل بشكل يعني جيد وكما مطلوب. انتشار يعني أنهار من المجاري من مياه الصرف الصحي حول المدارس وفي الشوارع وفي حول المساجد وفي الطرقات، وبالتالي
Okay, here's another one from Al Jazeera. This is on mass executions. This is one incident from last week. From December, actually.
Yeah, only taking that
شلحهم
stuff up
كل
now.
هدومهم بس بالبوكسرات وخلوهم يناموا كده على الأرض. بعد هيك بلشوا في الإعدامات قدام عينينا كنا، ما خلوا ولا حد، يعني عملوا ساحة دم قسما بعزة الله يوم ما بنتسى ولا حينتسى. بعد ما عذبوه قدامنا وكسروا له فكه وخبطوه على وجهه وعلى ايديه في الكلاش، انخبط خبط على ايديه التنتين كلهم كان نزيف دم، وشلحوهم وعذبوا الشباب كذلك وبهدلوهم اعدموهم. كل هذا واحنا قاعدين نتفرج عليهم ونستنى دورنا انه يجوا احنا التانيين نستنى اعداماتنا.
منطقة آمنة، فاتفاجأنا من ثاني يوم للجوء للمكان من كتر التعذيب كان مغمى علي. فالشخص هذا وقع علي وفكروا بعد ما خبطوا انه تأكد انه مات ومش مات كلهم تأكد انه انا ميت.
Yeah, this is kind of like back in the 1970s when the kind of like evidence for the My Lai massacre and stuff of US troops, you know, massacring people in Vietnam, and there was big outcry and stuff. This is the kind of same stuff, basically. You know what I mean? The Israelis are doing the same kind of thing that has gone down in history, in modern history, as, you know, as held up as you know, worst war crimes, etc., etc. And Israel is just doing it in front of everybody's face, and nobody seems to do it. I mean, they're fully supported by the West, you know. So I don't know.
I think there's an extra dimension to it, though. Okay, so we saw 2 Al Jazeera reports. So Blinken will go to Qatar and say, can you tell them to shut up or tone it down because, you know, we've got a war going on here. But Israel is so egregious in some respects, maybe unique. Tell me if I'm wrong, that even CNN is having a problem with it. So this is a report, we can watch a bit of it. This is a report about the desecration of cemeteries. Do you remember that ever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Desecration of cemeteries? Well, it's happened, but
systematically like this, though. Have a listen.
Today, the Israeli military acknowledged that they rolled into a cemetery, took bodies out of graves as part of what they say is a search for Israeli hostages' remains. But as the Israeli military put out that statement, we were completing our investigation into the Israeli military's desecration of cemeteries. And what we found is 16 cemeteries across Gaza damaged or destroyed. I do want to warn our viewers that they may find some of these images disturbing.
In Gaza, even the dead cannot escape the indignities of war. More than a dozen cemeteries like this one in Jabalia, desecrated by the Israeli military. Gravestones destroyed, soil upturned, tread marks leaving little left for the living to honor their dead. This is that same graveyard before the war. 1 month later, a series of tread marks can be seen on the northwestern edge. It is no exception. A CNN analysis of videos and satellite imagery found that 16 cemeteries have been damaged or destroyed by the Israeli military since it launched its ground offensive. As Israeli forces pushed deeper into Gaza, they crushed the graves of thousands of Palestinians between November and January. Janina Dill, co-director of Oxford University's Institute for Ethics, Law, and Armed Conflict, says destroying graveyards violates international law, except under very limited circumstances.
Cemeteries are not military objectives. They are, in fact, what international law would consider an object that is normally dedicated to civilian purposes, like places of worship generally. So this is protected from intentional attack. It can only be intentionally attacked or destroyed if it becomes a military objective.
In some cases, like this cemetery in the Shujaiya refugee camp, Israeli bulldozers turned cemeteries into military outposts, parking armored vehicles behind freshly raised berms. The damage is often deliberate and progressive. Over 2 weeks in December, the military bulldozed more and more of this cemetery east of Khan Yunis, building defensive fortifications. CNN witnessed firsthand the results of Israel's bulldozing of graveyards while embedded with Israeli forces last week. The armored personnel carrier CNN was traveling in drove right through this cemetery in Al-Burej, on a freshly bulldozed dirt road. And then there's this. Tombs opened at a cemetery in Khan Yunis this week, bodies removed from their graves. In a statement, the Israeli military acknowledged exhuming bodies from the cemetery as part of its search for the bodies of Israeli hostages. An IDF spokesman could not account for the damage to the 16 cemeteries identified by CNN, but said that in some cases there is no other choice, providing this photo of what it says is a Hamas rocket launcher at a cemetery in Gaza. CNN could not independently verify where it was taken. The spokesman could not account for the military posts over graveyards, but said, "We have a serious obligation to the respect of the dead, and there is no policy to create military posts out of graveyards." In at least one case, the Israeli military appears to have taken pains to maneuver around a graveyard. The Deir el-Balah War Cemetery, which holds the remains of many Christian and Jewish soldiers from World War I, left intact, despite devastation all around.
Interesting.
At the Al-Tufa Cemetery, a very different picture. Residents say bodies were uprooted by Israeli bulldozers.
We're currently retrieving the corpses of the martyrs that are present in the cemetery. The occupation forces have run over most of them with their bulldozers, and we've only identified a small number of corpses and martyrs. As for the rest, their identities remain unknown.
South Africa cited Israel's destruction of cemeteries as part of its case, arguing Israel is...
The thing about it is that that's...
Is that at all?
They are a military objective. The military target, graveyards in Gaza.
They are a military objective?
Yeah.
A cemetery? How so?
Well, what's Israel's military objective in Gaza?
Oh, right. Well, okay.
But no, that's everything.
Stated military objective is to get Hamas.
I don't care what
tunnels.
their stated military objective is. I mean, everybody should know at this point what the military objective of what Israel is doing in Gaza. It's got nothing to do with Hamas. It's got nothing to do with tunnels. It's got nothing to do with hostages. But everybody should know that.
Yes. So, but if it's genocide, then Israel's guilty according to the ICJ and the Court of Public Opinion. But it doesn't say that. You saw the Israeli IDF spokesman saying, "We're not doing what you've just showed all your viewers."
I know, but they can say what they want. I don't pay any attention to what they say. I just look at what's happening and I draw my conclusions. You know, I'm not giving any credence to anything any politician says, basically, at any point from here on. I haven't done for many years, and I certainly won't be starting now. I mean, I look at what's actually happening, and it's been clear to me that from the very beginning,
they don't want cemeteries because then people will go to them. So they don't have.
They don't want anything left in Gaza.
Yeah,
they want to create a situation where nothing in Gaza, that there's no remains of anything Palestinian in Gaza. Why? Because the whole point of this, as everybody should know, from the whole point of since October 7th, and October 7th was basically a false flag operation, as there's evidence to support that already, was to create or to put into action Israel's final solution for their Palestinian problem. And that obviously means getting rid of the Palestinian people from Gaza, which means getting rid of Gaza.
And the cemeteries.
Well, everything.
Everything. And taking the bodies.
Well, in the process, the details of that.
Taking the bodies from... The reason they gave for taking the bodies was that we suspect some of the hostages.
Maybe in that case, that was in one case, they dug up some because they had some intelligence that there may have been actual... They're weird people, like, but they're... I mean, I suppose you can understand that if you're that way inclined. they may have had some intel that some of the hostages had actually died and were buried in the cemetery. They might have got intelligence there. There's no other reason for them to actually go in and bother actually opening individual graves. That's just one incident out of 16. So obviously, if you speak to in terms of speaking to the destruction of cemeteries in Gaza, it's to erase any memory or any reason, any memory of Palestine or Palestinians in Gaza, and thereby erase any reason for Palestinians to want to go back there. And at that point, so you basically, from the top down, you just basically destroy Gaza. You destroy everything that could have would keep Palestinians, or mean Palestinians have any desire to be there. Of course, they still want to be there, but you're removing a lot of the enduring reasons, i.e., all of the buildings, making it uninhabitable basically for people, and then removing the memory of Palestinians by digging up graves and destroying graveyards. So all of the infrastructure that defines Gaza as a Palestinian territory, you destroy all of that, and then you put enough pressure on the people of Gaza, as we've just seen through denying them adequate living conditions and allowing disease to spread, to the point where you force a situation where they all leave. So you've destroyed everything that would give them any reason or strong reasons to want to stay there, and then you make it very, very difficult for them personally to want to stay there because they're suffering and dying from diseases and hunger, and then they leave.
Is there any sign that they're going to leave yet?
Well, they'll have to suffer some more. But Israel has to finish its job, finish the implementation of its final solution.
It's going to get away with it. It's going to happen. Yeah.
Europe and
France and Germany signalled this week that even if the ICJ finds them guilty of genocide,
they'll applaud.
They will. The new French foreign minister said that it's crossing a moral red line or something to ever accuse the Jews of genocide.
Accusing the Jews of genocide gets 5 anti-Semitisms out of 5.
Yeah.
That's 5 anti-Semitisms, not 4, 5 anti-Semitisms out of a possible maximum number of anti-Semitisms of 5. It's the most you can get. But you see the way that, they lie all the time, and it's sickening, their narrative, right? But you just ignore it as ignorant. They're just trying to cover their asses. Yeah, we're only bulldozing those graves because blah, 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 make up some reason. And it's obvious why you're bulldozing the graves, so I don't care what they say. You'll come up with some bullshit reason, but it's a bullshit reason, so why would I listen to it anyway?
Yeah.
Like, this is an example of, you have that one, Scotty? It's the last one I sent you. Or did I send you? Yeah. Just click on the picture. You click on that picture. Israel refused to allow fruits with stone pips into Gaza, according to an aid agency. ActionAid said border guards were turning shipments of fresh fruit away because the stones inside could be used as bullets. Or
used to plant trees.
Yeah, but particularly bullets, you know what I mean? Because it's well known that people would use, like you'd use a...
What, with a sling?
No, put it in a gun. Have you ever done that? Works really well. You put like...
an apricot stone in a gun?
Yeah, an apricot stone. Or you get a lot of grapes, and a lot of grape seeds.
Grape shot.
And then put that in your blunderbuss. So it's, you've probably seen the Hamas and other Palestinian militants in Gaza using those kind of weapons already, apricot seed shooter, apricot stone shooters and stuff. So obviously, there's an example of what I'm talking about, right? The point here is to starve the population.
Yeah.
And then you have to get creative and think of a reason why you're not...
Give it a military objective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so everything can be turned into a military objective if you wanted to,
Man, that's insane.
They're psychos.
Is this more insane than Ukraine? I think it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Definitely.
The Ukrainians spout the truth quite often. They're amateurs compared to this. Yeah. Oh, anesthetic has also been rejected.
Yeah, because you can put that in guns
which
as
is
well.
why amputations are now taking place on children without anesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun times. you see the plane just today, actually? Was it last night, maybe? A Dassault Falcon 10 private jet flying from India to Moscow, and it was Russian. I mean, it was a Russian chartered or Russian plane. It wasn't Indians, supposedly. Well, I suppose it could have been Indians, but suggestion is that it was Russians on board. Just went bye-bye, just disappeared.
Revenge for Austin, maybe.
Stopped communicating and disappeared from radar screens on Saturday evening last night when it was when it was in Afghan airspace near the border with Tajikistan. Search for the aircraft is ongoing. Update: crashed plane believed to be Russian. That's one below. Indian government officials denied the plane that crashed in the mountains was Indian. The crash occurred while the plane was en route to Moscow and is believed to be Russian registered.
Possibly then Russian military or diplomatic.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I thought revenge for Austin. Because when you start hitting each other's, government ministers.
Yeah, you've got to be careful though. 'Cause, two can play that game,
Satellite activated, plane disappeared.
Yeah. I mean, EMP weapon, who knows?
Speaking of Austin, that's the latest. There's no update on that. Okay, they haven't found the crash site or anything.
No.
Speaking of Austin, there's still no sign of life from the man. But
yeah,
go on, yeah.
No, I don't know if it's true or not. Six important agents of the Indian agency RAW were present in the plane. Who knows? We'll find out, or we won't find out.
Well, that's Moscow connected, so
yeah, definitely relates to Russia. Yeah.
No sign of life from Austin, except for this ambulance call they put out. Lloyd Austin aide made subtle ambulance plea in new audio.
He said what?
Go ahead and play it. Hopefully it plays, I'm sure.
Can I ask, like, can the ambulance not show up with lights and sirens? We're trying to remain a little subtle.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, usually when they turn into a residential neighborhood, they'll turn them off, but they're required by law to run with them with the main street.
Curious, if we need them to take him to Walter Reed Medical, is that a possibility?
Let them know that when they get there. Like I said, I'm noting all this in the call, but just let them know that when they get there. And how old is he?
And we will.
Go ahead.
Approximately 69.
Okay. Is he reporting any chest pain at all?
No.
Okay. Did he pass out?
No.
Does he feel like he's going to pass out?
No.
Okay.
No,
And
he's missing a leg, but...
He's awake, he's alert and oriented, he's not confused or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that's legit. Maybe that's made after the fact. Possibly is the call. If it's January 1st, that would fit, I think, with him being caught up in the airstrikes around.
I think he would have been flown back on a military plane out of Ukraine to some military airbase in the US, and then from there they want to transfer him to an actual hospital.
That's making it to Walter Reed.
Yeah,
where we heard him say, but that makes it sound like it was in a residential area, i.e., in his home. But that's unlikely. He would have been, military plane straight to whatever. There's another interesting follow-up on that. CNN reports that Congress wants to speak with Austin. He's been asked to testify before the House Committee on something. CNN. Lloyd Austin asked to testify before lawmakers about his failure to notify leaders of his hospitalization. Scroll down there. The House Armed Services Committee has asked Lloyd to testify before the panel to explain his failure to notify key government leaders, including the president. Rep. Mike Rogers, chair of the panel, sent a letter to Austin on Thursday requesting he testify in person during a full committee hearing on February 14th. Okay, well, February 14th, which is his 21st day, so he's got 3 weeks yet to show up. In the meantime, In the meantime, while we're waiting for the United States Secretary of Defense to let us know with signs of life. I've got another candidate here for someone being Ukrained. U.S. Major General Eric Smith. If you click on these are two articles. They use the same photo, but they're several months apart. The first one on the left is from late October, October 30th. Marine Commandant, so he's second or number one or number two of the U.S. Marines. General Eric Smith hospitalized after a heart attack. Okay, that happens, especially if he's vaxxed up the wazoo. If you look at the next one, though, this is an update from last week, 2 weeks ago, January 9th. Marine Commandant has open heart surgery following earlier cardiac arrest in October. Plans to return to duty. Maybe. But like a heart attack in October and then surgery only planned sometime now.
Smoke and mirrors, man.
Ukraine. Yeah. Horror story out of Ukraine this morning. Again, this is about the 50th time this has happened. But hey, Ukrainians bombed a marketplace in Donetsk City. Got some footage here. It was reported as like several killed, but Patrick Lancaster, you may know, the American reporter / activist who's kind of embedded with the Donbass militias a few years. He went there and he says he's counted at least 22 bodies. Go ahead and play that. I think this is just after the strikes.
Давай, наверное, домой ехать. Давай. Я прямо в рынок. Оп, обратно.
I think that's all there is. But yeah, there's a lot of footage of mostly old ladies like selling onions, some food. It's definitely like a marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
That's been going on a long time, though. I mean, we'd hope it would slow up now that the Russians have taken some places around Donetsk, but they can still fire, of course, standoff at a distance. Things going boom in Russia. In reverse order, this one from last night. This is a gas terminal, like a significant infrastructural site near somewhere in St. Petersburg region. This one's unique, I suppose, of all these incidents because in this case, people recorded footage of drones buzzing overhead, and I think it's acknowledged by the Russian government. Go ahead and play that. That this was a Ukrainian drones that hit the gas terminal. There was another oil refinery that was hit somewhere else. I forget where. I think that was also acknowledged as a Ukrainian drone strike. Okay. Also from last week, there was a huge fire at a warehouse, also in the St. Petersburg region. In this case, though, it's more like it's going down as an accident. No one's suggesting it's Ukrainians behind it. But then from just 3 days ago, this has gone down as an accident as well. But I'm not buying it because there's a guy on site filming this. Oh, no, he's not. It's CCTV footage. Have a watch. You probably saw this one. This is a major plant, manufacturer of polyester and textiles, apparently, officially. And we see it go kaboom.
Is that allegedly a drone?
No, that was allegedly a short circuit.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird.
And more besides, we've got drones hitting residential areas in Voronezh. In that case, you can hear the drone. I don't have the video, but you can hear the drone and you see the kaboom. Then there was another accident for which there's footage, after the fact, occurring at a major power plant all the way over in Russia's far east, in Magadan. So a lot of things went kaboom in Russia this week. You may notice that the French ambassador was called into the Russian foreign ministry to explain why hundreds of French mercenaries were gathered in Kharkov.
Mm-hmm.
There's no footage. There's no footage of that, but there are photos of the aftermath of the strike. They claim that they killed about 60
Mm-hmm.
French mercs at some gathering point in Kharkiv. 60 is a lot. Like, if there's 60 dead, there's hundreds gathering. That's just from one country. It's just another hint of the scale of what's happening here. And people have wondered, is that because are there a large concentration of French because that's where Ukraine is having to get troops from now? From the West,
Maybe.
They're running out of Ukrainians to do
Yeah.
Yeah, we said it 1,000 times. Well, Joe certainly has. The real reason for this war. Sometimes you do get a Westerner who just articulates it for you, and so you don't need to repeat it this week, Joe, because here's former NATO Secretary General Lloyd Robertson making it nice and clear in a headline for the Telegraph. If Ukraine loses, our enemies will decide the world order.
Is that it?
That's it. I mean, that's the gist of his point.
How will they decide the world order? Why will that happen if Ukraine loses?
Because
stuff? Because Russia?
Because it'll be a new world where...
If Ukraine loses?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Because it means Russia won't have submitted to our hegemony, which is no longer effective in deciding.
Well, how's that going to translate? What's going to happen as a result of that? I mean, practically.
Practically, he says the decision making, especially financial, will be taking place between Russia, China, and Iran.
Is that not happening already?
Oh, probably, but
I'm just wondering how Ukraine losing suddenly makes everything just fall apart in terms of the Western dominated world order.
I don't know.
Does he not explain himself in that article? No.
But no,
he just said just because Russia, because losing is bad.
Here's a direct quote: "If they, Ukraine, lose, we lose. ... Because otherwise the world order will be written by the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians and the North Koreans, and that will make a very, very uncomfortable world for my grandkids."
If he doesn't explain himself, then he still doesn't explain himself. I haven't heard any of these people explain themselves, short of more than saying if we lose, if Russia wins in Ukraine, if Ukraine loses in Ukraine, then it's really, really bad for us. Why? Well, the only main explanation I've heard is the bullshit one of, well, then it'll be what's next? Poland, the Baltics, France, and before you know it, there's Russian troops in Washington D.C. Not only in Washington D.C., but they're in frickin' Malibu, lying on your with their guns on your loungers in Malibu. So I go, yeah, that's bullshit. Can I have a proper explanation? No, you can't have a proper explanation. Why not? Because it's secret or something. So I'm still waiting a long time. They've been saying it for like probably 2 years now. We have to win in Ukraine or else it's all over for the West. Explain. How that happen? How does that actually happen? How? Give me the step-by-step process of, okay, let's say tomorrow Ukraine says we lost, Russia won. America doesn't admit it, the West don't admit it, but they have to tacitly accept it. Then when that statement is made, then we go to our front doors and listen and hear a distant rumble? There you go.
The Russians are coming.
No, that's the whole Western edifice. It just started crumbling because Ukraine said they lost.
Yeah.
I still haven't had an explanation. I still haven't had an explanation of how that happens. How it's all over for the West if Ukraine loses. What the actual mechanism is. I mean, Russia has practically, defeated the Ukrainian military, Western NATO-backed Ukrainian military already, a couple of times over. It is pretty much over, but the West is still just off, doing their thing in the Middle East. US is doing its thing with Israel in the Middle East. They're shooting missiles at each other. They're saber rattling over China, all that kind of stuff. But it's like Ukraine would just be like, oh, Ukraine's done. Let's forget about it. Carry on. But no, if Ukraine loses, the day that Zelensky says, look, guys, I think we might have don't say the word. You know what's going to happen if you say the word lost.
The whole edifice is going to crumble.
You've read it in the papers. Don't say lost.
Yeah.
Or at least don't say Russia won. That'll be worse. Say you lost, but it's not over or something like that. Just say something like that. So at least then we can keep going. Because if you admit it, it's just disaster. It's just like the mere vocalization of it just to be hell to pay for everybody.
You try and explain it.
Huh?
You try and explain it. Try to get in their heads. Why is it so?
It's not. It's just a narrative. It's like the. This
is the line.
It's like the fruit stones of fruit. We can't allow any fruit into Gaza because they'll use the pips of the grapes to shoot out of a blunderbuss. That's why. That's really why we're not letting fruit into Gaza. Oh yeah, okay, I can go with that. Like we have to keep arming Ukraine because, and then you get the bullshit narrative, right?
Yeah.
We can't allow fruits into Gaza. Add on ridiculous bullshit narrative. We can't allow Ukraine to lose or Russia to win because add on bullshit narrative. So the important point there is to remove the bullshit narrative. The stinking pile of horseshit, obvious, transparent horseshit that comes after that. You remove that completely, all of it, disinfect it a bit. So you start with a clean sheet and then you put in something that makes sense. That is based on your observation of what's actually, of the way the world works and how these people operate.
Which is, give us something. Come on.
Which is money. Because we like money.
And we'll no longer like money if Russia wins.
We'll no longer have money if Russia wins.
Is that the case?
We'll no longer be able to keep bilking Western taxpayers out of their money to quote-unquote send to Ukraine because the war will be over. Because Ukraine will have said that horrible word lost. And then there'll be Russians saying we won. And then that'll be definitive. And then we won't be able to justifiably, quote-unquote justifiably, bilk money from Western taxpayers to quote-unquote give to Ukraine. Because how can you give to Ukraine when there's no war anymore?
But they have infinite... Well, there are other things they can bilk people for. They can come up with a new...
Like a virus or something?
They
will. Maybe they will.
They're very good. They're very imaginative.
Well, but wars are awesome racket. That's why it's been used so often for bilking money.
Well, start a different war. Why is Ukraine so important?
Well, how do you start a different war?
I don't know. Start it between Germany and France. See what happens.
No, you can't start. Well, that's harder to do. You know what I mean? Ukraine was a godsend. It was a gift. You know what I mean? Here we're going to have a war that we didn't actually have to engage in fighting. All we had to do, it was just like, it was the perfect setup. Like we have a war, but you're not actually on the, your head isn't on the chopping block for any kind of like body bags coming home or anything like that. It's like you're doing a wonderful thing. You're being the wonderful supporter of this very just war against the Russian aggressor. So, and that way you still get to bilk all the money, but you don't actually have to deal with people back home complaining about body bags and, clamoring for this. I mean, it's one of those gifts that keeps on giving and will keep on giving as long as Zelensky doesn't say the word lost.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's ever going to. In Davos last week, the Ukrainian foreign minister came to pitch his... do we even need to hear this? But he just said what you just said, just keep giving us the money and the weapons and we'll supply the human lives. It's a great deal, he said.
American troops on the ground. So you save the most important, you save few lives of your soldiers. So we kind of offer the best deal on global market of security. Give us the weapons, give us the money, and we will finish the job.
That's it.
We imagine having a farm.
This is close to stripping away the bullshit.
Yeah, imagine being a Ukrainian, like, listen to that. Hopefully they can't speak English. Imagine listening to your foreign minister in Davos, sitting there telling the global media, look, Ukraine, I as a member of the Ukrainian government have offered you in the West the best security agreement you'll ever get, which is I sacrifice the flower of Ukrainian manhood and you send us the weapons
and the money
to defeat Russia, and you know, everybody's happy except all the families of the dead people. But fuck them.
That's pretty, yeah.
We're offering a great security deal.
Speaking of,
it's bizarre. Like, you know, what are the? Yeah, whatever. Anyway, go on.
Well, Ukrainians in Davos. This is a bit long. Maybe we won't listen to all of it, but there was an independent journalist. He spoke to a counterpart in Davos about his discovery about Ukrainians living it up there. Deleted. Boo. Look it up. It must have been reposted somewhere else. Callum, the unconventional journalist. He bumps into a guy who is also a journalist. No, he says he works in real estate in Switzerland. And because Switzerland got raked over the coals for lack of banking transparency years ago. So now they've got a very public register. And so if your name, if you're buying a place and it's put on a registry, land registry in Switzerland. And he's just going through it on his phone. Look at all these Ukrainian MPs, government ministers, buying 9 million, 10 million euro mansions in a particular part of Switzerland where other elites go because it's like super low tax in this one particular canton of Stad, I think it's called. Yeah. That's where the money goes, basically. Well, an enormous amount of it. So Kubela, that foreign minister, is literally there. He's there on business for the pitch, but he's probably also got a house or somebody knows has a house. Mm-hmm. So you give us the money. While I'm here in Switzerland, I'll buy myself a mansion with it, and I'll give you some Ukrainian lives.
Yeah, I'll swap you them for Ukrainian lives.
It may not be Israeli, but it's similar levels of psychopathy.
Yeah. Check. This is just for the record, basically. It's just so people know. Hamas is being. People wonder, like, why doesn't Hamas say anything, or is Hamas saying anything? You don't hear much from Hamas on CNN, like a Hamas spokesman. Hello, I'm from Hamas. Here's what's happening. You don't hear that much. Anyway, this is. Did I send that to you, Scotty? No. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I didn't. Here it is. So it's like several parts, and this is. So it's basically a statement that they published, and this part relates to the events of the Operation Alaska Flood and the responses to Israeli allegations. Basically, this is Hamas officially saying that the allegations that the Al-Qassam brigades on October 7th were targeting Israeli civilians are nothing but complete lies and fabrications. The source of these allegations is the Israeli official narrative, and no independent source proved any of them. It is a well-known fact that the Israeli official narrative has always sought to demonize Palestinian resistance, blah, 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 blah. While also legalizing its brutal aggression on Gaza. Video clips taken on October 7th, along with testimonies by Israelis themselves that were released, later showed that the Al-Qassam Brigade fighters didn't target any civilians, and many Israelis were killed by the Israeli army and police due to their confusion. And then refuting the 40 beheaded babies and any rape allegations, and down below a bit about the Israeli helicopter targeting people at the Nova Music Festival. So he said, basically, it just goes on, and that's just one part of it. But just so people know that Hamas has officially released a statement saying that they didn't kill any civilians on October 7th.
Which is the opposite to what a terror group does.
Of course.
It goes, yes, we did it.
Of course. They would say they deserved it. They kill our Palestinian civilians all the time. They deserved it, blah, blah. You would gloat about it. You'd big it up, basically, right? But here you have them saying, no, we didn't do it at all, which is weird. to say that you didn't if you actually did, because you would use it as a feather in your cap. But apparently they are saying, no, we don't. That wasn't the point at all. We didn't target any civilians. And of course, the evidence suggests that that was the case as well, that it was actually Israel that targeted civilians on October 7th. And there was probably some kind of death squad going on there as well that went in with a specific purpose of increasing the civilian dead or death count in order to justify, like I said, Israel's
final solution
for Palestine, and Gaza, and for Palestinians in general, which they've had for 20, 30, 40, 50. Well, you can go back to, you can go back as long as you want, but certainly in the last 20 years, or at least 20 years ago, you had notable Israelis saying that, listen, we need to definitively deal with this Palestinian problem. We need to get rid of the Palestinians. They need to be gone. And they even said, we can't do it right now, but at some point it will become expedient and unnecessary, or we'll have the opportunity to do it. And it just so happened that they created the conditions, they created the justification for doing it on October 7th. That's the world you live in, people, and you can wake up to it or not, but it's your choice. But that's reality right there. So I'm tired. Like, stuff's just so easy. People are like, oh, what did they do? What happened on October 7th? It's all complicated and stuff. People saying one thing and other people saying another, and I just read Twitter and it gets all confusing and stuff. It's like, no, it's not confusing at all. It's pretty simple. They had a plan, they needed a justification, they created a justification, and they put the plan into action, and they're putting the plan into action right now. End of story. I mean, it's great because you can just move on then from that one. Got that one down, let's move on. So, but it's confusing. I'm confused by it.
But they wouldn't be so evil.
They wouldn't do that. I choose to believe that people are good everywhere. Okay, you go ahead and do that. Let me know how it goes. Did you see? Did you see Djokovic?
Yeah, serving an ace.
Yeah, after some. Not surprising that it happened in Australia. The home of the COVID Nazis, the headquarters of the COVID Nazis in the Western world.
Oh, I don't know. Really?
I think Australia takes the prize for that one. Yeah, just pips it at the post.
4 match points.
Please.
What did he yell out?
Go back to the beginning.
4 match points.
Please.
Are you going to get vaccinated, Novak? And he just kind of breaks the concentration. People are booing, which is good. And this was his... Boom. Are you going to get vaccinated? No, I'll just win this match. Unvaccinated. How's that?
He'll probably win this one too.
And then there was, interestingly related, there's this one. There's a guy, Mike Dixon, who was... he's a journalist, a sports journalist, British sports journalist, and he was at specifically for tennis, he's a tennis journalist. And he was at the Australian Open reporting on it, and he just happened to keel over dead, 59, I think, Mike Dixon. And back in 2002, when Djokovic was under pressure and all that kind of stuff, and he didn't go to the Australian Open, where he was not allowed to go to the Australian Open because he was unvaccinated. It's ridiculous. This guy, Mike Dixon, was one of his greatest critics in that respect, saying that he was deplorable and that he was ruining his chances of becoming the greatest of all time by refusing to take the vaccine. It's a strange hill to die on for a player who is so desperate to be loved. Throwing all sorts of shit at him. Yeah. All sorts of shade at him. And then, lo and behold, 2 years later, Australian Open, the same guy collapses and dies unexpectedly. From some strange, I don't know, just unexpected death from... died suddenly, and doctors are baffled.
Baffling.
As to why. It's baffling.
It is baffling.
He died with 17 COVID boosters in him, but it's still baffling.
Mike Dixon, you'll be sorely missed. Yeah. Blink, blink, blink.
Yeah. Well, God love him. He didn't know.
He didn't know.
Now he knows.
Yeah. Does he?
Maybe not. He doesn't. He's none of the fucking
I
wiser.
think these people go, well, if they go to somewhere like a heaven, I think they remain.
Of course they do.
Because they go to a heaven that reflects what they strongly held on to, right?
Well, it's just the same as they
So
were before.
he's up there now going, Novak, get vaccinated, you
Yeah.
tosser.
Yeah. Get vaccinated or you might end up like me.
You know.
It's like, hang on, I was
Your
vaccinated.
truth, my truth, right?
How did that happen?
Biden.
General Milley. You're going to America, yeah.
America.
Milley.
Well, we got it. America's like the most important place on the planet.
Yeah.
We can't not talk about America. Millie, what do you do?
Listen to Milley here.
Is that how you pronounce his name?
Milley.
Sounds like a girl.
Did I? Yeah, there you go. Have a listen. Milley's got some questions he wants answered.
That's from...
And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me
That's where you got all
communist.
your ideas from.
So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend?
Good job. I want to know.
That's
3
from a
years ago.
couple of
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah.
yeah.
After the case. He wants to know why all those people tried to overthrow our democracy. Why did they do that? And the guy, Twitter guy, End Wokeness says...
He's referring to January 6th, right?
Yeah. Why did they want to overthrow our democracy on January 6th? In 2018, there were 44k white recruits. In 2023, the number fell to just 25k white recruits. But yeah, Mark Milley should just... he's asking silly questions. Or why did they want to do that? Well, probably... Well, it's pretty... Does he not follow the papers? They all thought that the election was stolen. That's why. They thought that the Constitution... They tried to overthrow the Constitution because they thought the Constitution had already been overthrown.
By Milley.
By people like you. It's pretty simple. And you won't find... tell you what, you won't find the answer in Mao Zedong. Or Karl Marx. Well, you might find it in Karl Marx. You never know. But...
January 6th, that was in the news a bit. Well, it wasn't really. Tucker Carlson brought attention to it. They released video footage of one of the sites where a pipe bomb was left under a bench outside the DNC building.
Mm-hmm.
There were two. One was left outside DNC and RNC next to the Capitol. And there's new footage. It had been leaked before, showing the guy leaving it and walking away. That was the kind of black and white footage. And now there's clear as day, the next day basically. It's someone walking up to a cop car and a Secret Service car to let them know right next to them there's a bomb under the bench. Anyway, do you have it?
No.
Okay. Well, it's we won't play it. It's Tucker Carlson was interviewing Darren Beattie about it, who he's Revolver News.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on January 6th since the beginning. Yeah, it's a damning piece of footage, but it's kind of crickets. The media's like, meh, whatever. That could mean anything.
Mm-hmm. Did you see this? I mean, just like a little hint of what might have happened on January 6th, or what caused January 6th, the insurrection on January. America itself, the country, if you can call it that, is such a joke, you know, just on the basis of January 6th, calling January 6th an insurrection. Such a bunch of snowflakes, like.
Yeah.
Insurrection, you don't know what insurrection my ass, like. Yeah. Anyway, Trump helped a vote scandal go viral. So what really happened? Actually, this is when alleged ballot stuffing was caught on camera in New England City, Donald Trump and his supporters seized on... This has got nothing to do with Donald Trump, right? They've put Donald Trump in there to try and kind of discredit it in some bullshit subtle way, and saying that he helped it go viral, whatever. But basically, there was evidence on a recent mayoral election in Bridgeport, which is somewhere in New England City. So basically, controversy that not only upended Bridgeport's mayoral race, but has caught the eye of former US President Donald Trump. Yes, Trump, whatever. That's not part of the story. In September, leaked surveillance video appeared to show several people stuffing ballots into Bridgeport's voting drop boxes. The alleged box stuffers include allies of Bridgeport's mayor, Joe Ganim. So basically, it's just a story about, on a local election level for a mayor of a city, pretty much clear evidence of supporters of one candidate going and stuffing a load of ballots that they made up, that they just, got themselves, obviously, and filled in themselves and stuffed them into a ballot box to be counted. So basically, it's election rigging, right? Yeah. So it's just an evidence of the fact that it happens, and in fact, that claim is the claim of that. That's what happened on the 2020 election, presidential election in America. That was in part of the rigging was ballot stuffing, people going and stuffing ballots in, and there is actually evidence, photographic evidence and video evidence of strange people going. I mean, afterwards they say no, those people were allowed to stuff those boxes. They were just getting them from the ballot boxes. They weren't putting them in there. But it's American electoral system is a joke. Like, obviously, it's rife with rigging.
Have you watched 2,000 Mules?
No, but
it's epic.
Yeah,
the scale of it is epic.
Yeah, it was something like
2020.
Something like a total of maybe like 500,000 votes across 5 or 6 states. Of them, like the major swing states, basically. That there was up like 50,000 extra were stuffed. 80,000, over 100,000 in another one, basically totaling to maybe 500,000 or more.
They did a very conservative analysis to pinpoint that drop boxes like that one in Bridgeport at key sites in swing states, in quote swing states, mostly Democrat-controlled cities, and they narrowed it down to 2,000 mules, hence the name of the show. Yeah. These were solid. These were people who were kept returning over during the night. Mm-hmm. They were doing multiple runs of multiple ballots, and their route. They couldn't identify them by name, but they could identify their positions, geolocate them through mobile phone data. I'm not sure how they got it. I think they said they just paid a security company for the data, and or it was leaked. That's part's a bit shady, kind of spy versus spy stuff. But anyway, once they had that key phone data, they could track them and the numbers, the numbers they were returning with. So they narrowed it down to just those 2,000 who delivered at least a minimum number of ballots each. So these are the major ballot stuffers. Yeah. And that was, it translated to hundreds of thousands of votes for Joe Biden. Just as an aside, I mean, the official Russian position on this is Biden is the legitimate president of the United States. But Putin dropped it this week when he gave some kind of... It's one of those things where it's televised and there's snippets of it from his statements that become news stories. I think he was speaking in front of a panel, maybe of vets, I'm not sure. And he dropped that the last US election was rigged.
Who?
Putin.
He did, yes, that's right.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
It's just a 20-second clip. I don't even want to play it. He's describing exactly the process. That the last US election was stolen. So if it's, I don't know if maybe it's a signal that they might change their view on it, their official position, but officially Putin and Russian government are like, yeah, Biden won. But unofficially, Putin's just dropping this like 2 days ago.
Можно все сфальсифицировать, так как в Соединенных Штатах фальсифицировали предыдущие выборы через голосование по почте. Ну, понятно, что это голосование по почте. Скупали за $10 бюллетени, вписывали и без всякого наблюдения со стороны.
Yeah, but Putin's a Russian propagandist, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I know.
That means you have to dismiss. And on the right,
that's something else. But yeah, that's also kind of a bombshell. That's Igor Kirillov. He's the head of the Russian WMD facility in their department, within their military structure. And he's been giving these press conferences for a year now. This latest one, he says...
Play that.
Yeah.
США как и в 2019
Expand it,
году,
no? Can we read
приступили
the
к
text?
подготовке к новой пандемии путем осуществления поиска мутаций вирусов. Не исключаем применение Соединенными Штатами так называемых оборонительных технологий в наступательных целях, а также в целях глобального управления путем создания кризисных ситуаций биологического характера.
Text was too small to read, at least for us at this scale. But
global control by creating biological crises. Basically saying that the US plan to manufacture another biological crisis.
Yeah,
So
disease
it's
X.
Two bombs.
Two bombs side by side.
Dropped by
It's
Russia.
election year again. Last time it was COVID plus ballot stuffing, and
Basically, the message out of Russia for Americans is your elections are rigged. 2020 was rigged. 2024 will be rigged. And also, America is planning, between now and then, to release a biological weapon and some kind of another COVID part 2. This time it's personal. So prepare yourself for that. And then meanwhile, in the global south, things are going really well with Wolverine's retarded brother, also known as Argentina's president, Milei, is hard at work. Let's see what he's up to. What are you up to?
Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas,
Public Works,
afuera. Aunque te resistas. Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación,
Ministry of Science and
afuera.
Technology,
Ministerio de
out.
Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social,
Ministry of Labour,
afuera.
Employment and Services,
Ministerio
out.
de Educación,
Education Ministry,
afuera.
Indoctrination,
Ministerio de
out.
Transporte,
Ministry of
afuera.
Transportation, out.
Ministerio de Salud,
Ministry of
afuera.
Health,
Ministerio
out.
de Desarrollo Social,
Social
afuera.
Development, out.
Se acabó el curro de la política. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
So all of the main ministries in Argentina apparently are out. They're gone. They don't exist anymore. It's just going to be Javier Milei and his awesome sideburns running the country. If you've got a problem, you don't call your GP anymore. You call Javier. Javier, my gout's acting up. What'll I do? He'll say,
consult the free market.
He'll say, "Viva la libertad, carajo," and hang up on you.
That's when all he was campaigning. So it remains to be seen exactly what he will.
It's all gone.
Defund.
It's done.
He's defunded.
He said
everything.
there's going to have to be a lot of pain. It's going to be very painful for a while, but then it'll get awesome afterwards when you've got no health service.
We'll see. Did you listen to his speech at the WEF? No. It's bizarre. I saw an AI doctored version. So it looks as if it's him saying it. It's his voice and everything. It manipulates his face. You don't see that it's dubbed, but it's in English.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good speech, but it's not really reality based. You know, it's one thing. He puts up the ideal of what man could be if we just basically remove the government completely. Okay.
Chaos.
Awesome.
Maybe.
Well,
in the current climate.
Like you yourself would say, I don't need government, I don't need leaders.
Yeah.
I'm my own man, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that should appeal to you, right?
Appeal to me.
Appeal to you.
I wouldn't prescribe it for everybody.
That's the thing.
Some people need mommy and daddy, you know?
Yeah. A lot of people need mommy and daddy.
The problem is, and that's okay, the problem is that mommy and daddy these days are psychos. So no, they shouldn't have that kind of mommy and
Maybe
daddy.
they'd be better off then. Maybe this is the time for Malays.
They're caught.
Ultra-libertarian.
They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, you know? They need mommy and daddy, but the only mommy and daddy available is a couple of psychos. So what do you do?
Satire came to life this week in a glorious way. We mentioned earlier that the Boeing stock has been wiped off because of recent incidents like the panel falling off a plane mid-flight in Alaska.
By the way, I'll tell you one other thing. You're asking what the answer is as to why, if Russia wins and Ukraine loses, that the West would immediately collapse. And I said money. It's not. It's the narratives they give are bullshit. Like as in Russia's going to take over the rest of the world. I mean, it's going to. They kind of use a metaphor in a certain sense when they say that their bullshit answer is a kind of metaphor where they claim that Russia would invade Poland and then invade the Baltics and then invade France and then invade Germany and then invade Iceland and then invade land in the Bahamas,
Greenland,
and then the Bahamas,
then Newfoundland, then Washington. Next thing it's Washington.
That's a metaphor for what would happen in the sense that their money dries up, their money making dries up. But I mean, there is an element, obviously, to one thing you can actually define as being a negative for the West is, like, for example, if they are able to, if Russia wins, and if, I don't even think this would be the case, but if they were able to take over most of Ukraine, or even half of Ukraine, they would, like, Russia is already the largest wheat producer and exporter in the world, but they would end up, if they were to take most of, not even just half of Ukraine, because most of the wheat producing land is in the east, they would end up maybe with 30% rather than 20%. They'll add the 10% of Ukraine, so they'll have 30% of the wheat production, the share of the world's wheat, and that's that gives them more leverage. So Russia would certainly gain a few things, tangible things that would increase their influence and power in the world. But Western countries just shit their pants at even a slight increase in Russia's influence. Their whole goal all along has been to reduce Russia's influence. And so any result that would lead to the opposite, even if only marginal, is just horrible for them, because who knows what comes next. But it's just their own power and their own influence. They don't want Russia having any more power and influence than it already has, because they don't agree with Russia's view of the world and how it should work. And any increase that Russia gets from winning in Ukraine would just mean that it has that bit more influence in terms of pushing its and its allies' vision of the world. And so it's more of a longer term slow creep that they're worried about, as well as losing money in the short term. Anyway, carry on.
Well, now that we've gone back to the 64,000 meta question of geopolitics, Xi Jinping. We haven't mentioned China once in the show. It's kind of like the elephant in the room here, because you've heard them say over and over again,
"We are coming for your daughters."
Well, lately, they've been the Westoids have been saying what we heard Robertson say today. Well, you see, if we don't get them now, then they'll get Poland, and then
if we don't have to fight them there, we'll have to fight them here.
But that's only one track bullshit narrative. There's another track bullshit narrative. Is if we don't stop Russia in Ukraine, China will be emboldened over there, which is a version of it's an updated 21st century version of the Lyndon Baines Johnson. There's a commie in all them southern gooks and stuff, right? And if we don't, get them now, all those little dominoes, it was the bullshit of its time, but it echoes. So here's Xi Jinping this week. I don't know what the context is. Maybe it's a televised speech. Maybe it's from a New Year speech. I'm not even sure we're going to actually listen to him. Is it text or... Excuse me, it's just a text. Let me just see what the text is from. It's from something last year. So we'd have to look it up. I don't know what this is from, but this is supposedly something he said last year. Western modernization was fraught with sanguineous, bloody crimes such as war, slave trade, colonization and plunder, which inflicted untold misery on developing countries. Having suffered from aggression, bullying and humiliation by Western powers, we Chinese are keenly aware of the value of peace and will never follow the beaten path of the West. The biggest problems with Western modernization are that it is capital-centered rather than people-centered, and that it seeks to maximize capital gains rather than serve the interests of the vast majority of the people.
That's communism right there.
It's communism. I know. It's Marxist-Leninism, Theory 101. But there's a core point here which, even if you strip out the historical materialist interpretation of economics and the development of peoples, the core point is there, that he distinguishes Western modernization. He's saying that you don't have to be Western aligned or Western subjugated or Western this and that, Western gay, Western everything, to be modernizing. And that is exactly the problem they have with China. It has modernized in its own way. It has therefore laid down the mac and said that modernization is not synonymous with Westernization. It need not be. And this is what is making heads explode in the West, and has been since he became.
Get your hands off our modernization.
Yeah, modernization is ours. our world order, our rules. No, you don't get the dishwasher unless no. And China's like, yeah, but we've just built a new type of dishwasher that's even better than yours. No, you just copied us. You know, and so we're on and on it goes. But this is that's where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is that I don't think China could even have wanted to go communist as people think of communism, and Russia certainly isn't heading in that direction either. So all that's just fear mongering. All that kind of stuff about China, communist Chinese and communist Russian or whatever is it's just Western government propaganda, anti those two countries propaganda, aimed at their own populations in order to keep them in thrall. You know, to avoid them being open to ideas as expressed by Xi right there. You know, so yeah.
I mentioned Boeing. I want to do this. So, the Federal Aviation Authority last week. This is like life imitating satire. Here's a screenshot. I don't know if this is a right-wing-ish media lampooning or sort of taking it too far. I'm not quite sure exactly what the FAA specified, but the claim is that the Federal Aviation Authority is recruiting people with specific disabilities under a new diversity drive.
Severe intellectual disabilities.
Yeah.
Well, it worked really well for for the government. So they've already met with glowing, wonderful, resounding success by doing that in the Biden administration. So serious psychiatric problems. DEI.
Hi, this is Dallas Airport Control.
What is a plane?
So here's the satire. Like, this is 2 years ago. Babylon B.
In major win for diversity, airline hires blind pilot.
How long does it take for satire to become reality? It's currently 18 months.
Go back to that previous one, Scotty. The Federal Aviation Administration is looking for recruits with severe intellectual disabilities. The agency is hunting people with psychiatric issues and other mental and physical conditions. Includes jobs such as air traffic controllers. Are keen to employ those with hearing and vision impairments, missing limbs, and partial and complete paralysis.
Like I said, this is the Daily Mail, so it could be them like they're exaggerating something about it.
Air traffic controller with vision impairments. What about like was it TIA, like the screeners, like who are meant to
the TAA,
is it TIA, whatever TIA, TIA,
the security,
who have to feel you up to check if you got bombs on you or something. Well, someone with complete paralysis would be good at that. No.
Or missing limb. At least you'd only get half the feel.
I'm just kind of frisky now. No, you're not. Anyway,
thankfully, that's just bureaucratic hiccup. Thankfully, though, when the really important person in America, the person who counts, the president, he's still compos mentis. So let's hear Joe Biden say something Civil War, F-16s.
And I love people who say, the blood of liberty, or excuse me.
Oh, jeez.
The tree of liberty is watered with the blood of patriots. Well, guess what, man? I didn't see a whole lot of patriots that are out there walking around making sure that we have these weapons. And if you really want to worry about the government, you need an F-16.
I didn't see a whole lot of patriots walking around out there making sure we have these weapons. What's he talking about?
I have no idea. But the last sentence.
If you worry about the government, you need an F-16.
You need F-16s. That's about the 10th time in 4 years he's said something like this. It's really creepy, and it's clearly pointed.
Yeah, it's like I'm a dictator now.
It's kind of, you know what it is.
Do what I want.
He said it in the context of gun control before. It's like, and the American obsession for the right to bear arms, right? The Second Amendment people. He's always been like, let's limit it, because the thing you're shouting back at me, the Second Amendment, speaks about the right to bear arms in case of a tyrannical government, right? But you're never going to get F-16s. He said it properly in context before, but lately he says it just like, I'm pretty sure this was in the context of a question about civil war, or like a civil war atmosphere, the polarized climate in the United States in general. So it's he keeps saying it, and that if it's the 10th or 12th time that he said it, there's kind of a sinister subtext, which is, I have the F-16s. Winner takes all. You don't have them. If you want them, come and get them. But I've got them. Might makes right. That's what it smells like.
Yeah.
Democracy be damned. Which, of course, given what actually happened in 2020. Well, look, that's just Joe. He's senile. Thankfully, the bureaucrats are losing it with their diversity hires. Joe Biden is senile, and I think even Democrats recognize that. But that's okay, because we still have Kamala. What did Kamala say this week? She can
Very important to know, yeah.
She can string sentences together. So,
I have to tell you, I love Gen Z. Yes, I know, but I love Gen Z. And it will be a humbling fact to many of us when we realize that anyone who is 18 today, they were born in 2005. Indeed, yes, wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
great. Thanks, VP.
That's great.
All right, moving on.
Meanwhile, Russia just experienced, marked their epiphany. So let's check in on Vlad for comparison. How did Vladimir Putin mark epiphany in Moscow?
There you go. Imagine Joe Biden doing that.
He's real man. No, you can't.
He'd go under and wouldn't come back up the first time. He'd be like, bloop, bloop, bloop.
Well, the comparison is Joe Biden goes to the beach 6 times in June, July, eats ice cream and sleeps.
Yeah.
The contrast is pretty stark.
Yeah, well, Joe Biden's a bit older, isn't he? 10 years older. Putin will probably still be doing that when he's 80.
That's about all I've got. But there were more UFO leaks. You know that video of the spaghetti thing? Has that already been in the news? The jellyfish, the spaghetti monster, is what the people on the base called it. I only just watched it recently. Have you seen it?
Mm-hmm.
You have, okay. Then people probably have. Too.
Yeah,
I just caught up with it recently.
Yeah,
it's worth noting because people ask me, what's the latest? Well, every week there's something. So, okay, it's been a few weeks since Spaghetti Monster jellyfish thing is floating across the base in Iraq. Since that was released, that's from 2016 or something. But there's another one from 2019. This was a triangle UFO spotted off a ship somewhere off the United States. I only mention it because it's another drip. And this wasn't David Grush. This was someone else through a FOIA request or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more drip disclosure. You get something every week, but it doesn't get the commensurate attention it should fucking have.
It's conditioning. You just condition in the population, and you have to realize you're being conditioned for some, probably for some ultimately some revelation, and just realize that you're being conditioned, and look at how you're being conditioned and why. Because the fact that it's a deception, and there's something nefarious about it, is the fact. It's seen in the fact that they're doing this. They're having congressional testimony about it and all kind of stuff, but then there's no official acceptance of it. There's no follow up on it. It's like. Guy David Grush and others are there in Congress saying, yes, biologics as in actual alien bodies, whatever, alien spaceship, all that kind of stuff. So he provides that testimony. He's got evidence for it. So they go into a closed room meeting afterwards, whatever. You'd think there'd be some discussion about it, right? And then Congress would go and look at all that evidence. They'd get to see whatever they could see themselves, and then they would draw a conclusion. Then they would tell the American people, yes, based on our, we brought in some scientists and all that kind of stuff, and yes, it looks like what this guy is saying is true. There's no reason to doubt him, and we've seen it ourselves, and yes, aliens exist. There you go. You'd expect that to be the result of when you get to the point of having congressional testimony that isn't refuted, but you'd expect it to be followed up on, either refuted or approved or verified as true, and then a statement made by the government or by Congress or by the government. You pass it up the line, whatever, and then you make a statement. But you get nothing. Nothing comes of it. And then you get, like you said, another little drip.
Next week, another video is released.
Another video is released bit by bit by bit. So it's obviously people are being conditioned to accept the ultimate reality of aliens of some description. Congress or members of Congress, members of the government already know what that is, but are only drip feeding it to you bit by bit. Now that is inherently suspicious, and likely nefarious. So just take it for what it is in the moment, and don't reserve judgment basically all along, because it's dodgy. Anything the American government does is dodgy, basically. So that's all I have to say about aliens. Anyway,
same. We're done. I think.
But
but
that's it.
We're good. You're heading back to the beach.
I'm going back to the beach now.
It's 2 degrees outside.
Not in the beach. Did you know that I always wanted to be a Gregorian monk?
Oh, well.
Yeah, I never got the chance though. But
never got the chance.
I never got the chance. Yeah. So,
do you find these on like?
Huh?
Joke
Let's just make
website?
them up. Just come out of information field. You
wake up on Sunday morning and there it is.
Another one. Eureka. Another horrible joke. So we're going to leave it there for this week, folks. Thanks for listening, watching, and for commenting. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week with another one. Until then, stay vaccine free. See you later. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Can't stop the signal now.